I took on the 13th of December 2022. Real mixed bag yesterday, and obviously with hindsight, I can clearly see what, what I did wrong and what I did right. So it's always, I feel like doing these is really helping me. I hope they're helping other people as well, but they're really helping me. Okay, so let's start with the bad. In the morning, we were chatting on the Discord saying, "Oh, it's a really rubbish morning. It's not moving very much anywhere." And I was looking at what was I looking at? So I'm looking at three things at the moment. So NAS 100, GJ, and GU. And we said on the Discord, "Oh, it's really not moving very much. It's just ranging." And I even said, "Yeah, I'm not going to do anything until this afternoon when there's news." And sure enough, I decided to place two trades immediately after saying that. So that was mistake number one. But anyway, let's just have a quick look and see what I thought I was seeing at the time, which clearly I wasn't. So I started looking at the charts around about here, and I put in the relative highs and lows of the Asian session. I marked up when London was going to open, and didn't really do a great deal. It did do a little bit of a sweep below here, but it had already been down much lower than that late last night. It was still Asian session though. So really, this box should have been lower because it I kind of ignored that, and I don't know why. So looking at this, thinking, oh look, it's had a little bit of a liquidity sweep. I did have a look at the sort of midnight candle as well, I think. No, that was just a low. Not really sure what I was doing there. What did I put in there? Liquidity grab, yeah. So I thought that it had done a liquidity grab, but if you have a look here, it hasn't because it's already been down that far. But anyway, oh god. So I'd seen that, decided that obviously that, oh look, it's going up to the top of the range. It's clearly going to go back down again. That looks like a rejection candle. And I probably would have gone down to the 5 minute. So let's have a quick look on that. It is obviously going to mess up what I'm looking at here. Yeah, there's absolutely no reason why I should have put a trade in there because I don't see anything anymore. There is no reason whatsoever for me to place a trade, but I did, and obviously I got stopped out. So apparently there was back here there was a fair value gap forming on the 5 minute, but it never completely formed. So that stopped me from taking the trade up there. So that's a good thing. I did put in a fib at that point as well to see if it was going to be a retracement. So that's probably what I was aiming for at this point, but it does retrace back quite a bit. Fib shows the fair value gap was too premium. So when this fair value gap was forming, it wouldn't have been a valid entry point anyway because it wasn't far enough back. So this okay, so this is what I was looking at the moment. So this would have been the fair value gap that I was looking at, and that's why I put the entry point there, because it would have been a discount at that point. And looking at that going back down again. But interestingly enough, if you look back, this line here shows my bias. So at the moment, my bias is bullish. Anyway, let's carry on. So I put my pending order here on this candle, pending order to activate there. The idea here was that, well, that's going to protect me if it does shoot off in the wrong direction. At least I'll know because it will go past the stop loss, but it wouldn't have activated the order. Of course, it immediately activates the order, and I think, oh, look, I'm right. So it's obviously going to go in my direction. And so yeah, it failed, and I think my takeout from that at the time was, oh well, it was against the trend, but actually, I think looking at it now, it hadn't really broken out properly. It hadn't really done anything. It hadn't really moved. There wasn't really any momentum. So, as I said on Discord, I really shouldn't have done anything until the news candle later on that day. I did wonder if this fair value gap would have got tapped into. So that was kind of like the first warning. I think there was a tiny one there as well. Yeah, there's another one there as well. So at the time looking at the charts, these would have been on my chart identifying other fair value gaps. And it's fascinating to see that it did touch the top fair value gap. So technically, I should have taken that into account. So my stop loss should have been more about here. But realistically, if the fair value gap is that close, you're going to have to put it up to there to really make it effective, because you've got three fair value gaps, all in a very similar area, that are all going to intimate that it could possibly go back there, and that's exactly what it did. It tapped the very top, teeny tiny fair value gap. So that's certainly a good thing to identify for the future. If I was going to take a with the trend trade, then there was a fair value gap here as well. So that would have been the direction that I should have actually been looking at taking it, because it was with the trend, it's with my bias, and that's the direction I should have actually gone. So that would have been there. And aiming for the top fair value gap, that would have been a winning trade. But hindsight's wonderful, isn't it? What would that have been? That would have been nearly a 2R. So, lesson learnt for that day. Putting a fib, sorry, it's getting a bit messy now. Let's just hide that one. So, why did I put in a fib there? It does make me wonder what's going through my brain at the times. I think I put a fib there because obviously that has now gone up, and I want to see if it's going to retrace back. But when it retraces back, you are looking for a fair value gap at the sort of mid-range. So that would have been about here. But it's going back up. That technically would have been an entry, but it hasn't really swept below. I think at this point I'm now, because I've lost that trade, I'm now kind of like really hesitant to pretty much do anything at all. Having a look there, again, there's no real sort of exciting movement going on. But for some reason, I decide, oh, look, that's a fair value gap, and it's at the mid-range of the fib. So let's place the trade there and put the trade in, and of course get stopped out again. So really my learning from yesterday for these two failed trades is I knew right the way back here that this was a ranging market and that I really should wait for it to break out. But then I thought I was better than that, and went ahead and took these two trades. Luckily, I'm just running on demo at the moment, so paper trading, so it hasn't really affected anything. But if we have a look at the two trades, there you go, 100 there and 110 there. So those are the two losing trades that I took on GJ. So whilst all this was going on, I was also looking at NAS and GU. But I think I stepped away at that point and thought, no, I'm going to come back until the news, because clearly I need to stick to what I said in the first place. Going over to the NAS. Now, at the time, I haven't really used the Mini very much, so I'm still kind of learning how it works. Because I'm in the UK, I can use CFDs, but everybody talks about sort of futures and Minis, so I was giving that a go. And looking at the morning, it was actually a lot clearer. So from London Open, it did break out from the swing high. It did pull back. There was a fair value gap, but I didn't trade it because I'd already lost the two trades on the other the GJ, so I didn't place this trade. But this would have been another 2R. So I waited for the news candle. That's the news candle, obviously. Now, normally with NAS, it pretty much always, in my very limited experience, completely covers back the imbalance of a news candle. So once it had completed, I was waiting for it to start retracing and produce a fair value gap. There were a couple that came in. I don't know if it's still going to show. Yeah, so that one still shows. This one got filled. And that's kind of where I would have taken it. I think at the time I actually dropped down a little bit lower, like a 4 or 3 minute, to try and get this entry in a little bit tighter. And let's see if I had any other. No, I didn't have anything else. So really it was that. So I placed this on originally, and I think that I didn't click the button. Either I was away from the computer at the time or still feeling burnt from GJ. So what I thought I would do is I would wait for the retracement and have a look at it then. So put the fib in, waited for the retracement. There were two fair value gaps. So these different colors is because I'm using multi-time fair value gaps, and the blue would be the 5 minute and the green is the 15 minute. So I know that there's a really strong fair value gap just here. And because it's so strong, I decided that it wasn't going to go back any further than that. So I put the stop loss in there, put the pending order around about here, and then initially I would have put it, say, around about here. Actually, I think that's it there. Would have been a 2. Yeah, so it's about here. Now, once I placed it, because it's an E-mini, it only allows you to place one order, and if you place one order, that's actually a 10% risk on my $10,000 paper trading account, which I really wasn't happy with and felt really uncomfortable with. And then interestingly enough, when it was going in the right direction and the numbers were going up a lot higher than they should do, so it was basically 10 times more than I would normally risk. So once it hit $1,000, it was like, well, that's 10 times what I'm really expecting it. I felt like I was cheating myself. I was fooling myself in getting a really good trade when actually it was just a normal trade. So I actually ended up closing that trade at that point because I didn't want to get thousands and thousands of dollars on my paper trade. But I obviously left it there just to see that would it go down to the news candle, the end of the news candle, and it did. So it was really frustrating in the fact that I was right. It was a winning trade, but I came away feeling like I had a bitter taste in my mouth because I cheated myself, which is really disappointing because everything else was spot on. I knew that it would refill the news candle. I knew when to go in. I missed the first entry. Cool, calm and collected. I took the second one. And that would have been a 3R. So that was quite an interesting turn of events. And then finally, the only other one that I did, it's still going. This trade that I put in is still going on. Let me just get rid of that. So similar sort of thing. Now with the Forex, I'm not so familiar with it. So I assumed, like with the NAS, that it would completely fill the news candle. Now, because I've not done Forex really much before in the past, maybe that was a bit greedy. Maybe I should have put it back to something a little bit less extensive. But I'm not using real money here. I'm still training. I'm still learning how to do it. So maybe a retracement back to the fib there maybe would have been a good point. But anyway, otherwise, this again, I mean, technically, I'm happy to say that this would have been a winning trade, even though it's still in progress. Even though my target was way lower than possibly it should be. I'm happy that my analysis that I did, finding the fair value gap, putting the order in, giving myself a decent stop loss, and it tapping in. It tapped in there, but it would have tapped in there as well. So I even had two opportunities for the order to be picked up, and yeah, I just need to be a bit more aware of where I put my take profit when I'm dealing with Forex, especially with news candles. It's clearly, I'd rather be out this now. So clearly with Forex, I need to be a little bit more generous and forgiving with the news candles and allow a bit of a shorter TP. So that's my review. I hope you enjoyed it.